Genre-blending games are a mixed bag. When they fail, it's unfortunate, but understandable given the difficulties of melding two sometimes very different genres into a coherent and fun final product. The reason that game studios keep trying it, though, is because when you do succeed, you can create an absolute classic of a game, the kind of game that is the inspiration for other studios and the absolute joy to play for players. The city-building roguelite Against the Storm is one of those games and is an absolute masterclass of indie game development. If your favorite part of building a city in a city builder is the beginning, when you lay everything out and take your settlement from struggling to fulfill needs into a well-developed area, then this is a game that will appeal to you. Against the Storm was developed by Airmite Games and published by Hooded Horse. This was the first game the Polish studio ever developed, and in some ways the journey of the game reminds me of another favorite of mine, Wildermyth. The game started in Steam Early Access, releasing in October 2021. Over the next 2 years, the game was developed, honed, and planned with serious involvement of the strong community that grew up around the game. One of the things I noticed when the game first came onto my radar was the detailed development blogs that highlighted just which adjustments and changes came from player feedback. That is a truly special mindset to have as a developer, and the results speak for themselves. Upon its full release in December of 2023, the game garnered incredible praise and currently sits with an overwhelmingly positive review score on Steam with over 20,000 user reviews. To add on to their accomplishments, the developers announced on March 27th that they had crossed 1 million sales on Steam alone, a well-deserved accomplishment. Airmite Games struck on something special with the city building / roguelike combination, and the players like myself who found the game thanked them for it. There is a demo available for those interested in giving the game a chance before committing to purchasing. Imagine a world where civilization is condensed down to a single city, a haven for all races, but that city is sustained by resources that can only be gathered outside of the city. Therefore, you, as one of the viceroys, must venture out and establish settlements to collect resources to send back to the smoldering city. All of these settlements, though, are impermanent, as the ever-present blight storm responsible for the destruction of the old world will come and sweep away all that you have built, and you must start all over again. It is a race against time in multiple ways, balancing the settlements to reach out as far as possible before the storm hits, while not delaying too long and incurring the wrath of the Scorched Queen. Each cycle resets the entire system and you must start again, but with increased resources and options to build collected with each success towards building more settlements, upgrading the central city, and resealing the seals further out in the wilderness. To start off, you pick a location on the world map to try your next settlement. There are different biome types that will alter the resources you can collect and what challenges you will face. Then there are some very specific modifiers from various things around the map, such as royal outposts or corrosive torrents. Plenty of things to consider as you choose where to settle next, but once you have chosen, you'll have the option to see what races / resources you start with. Choose some additional bonuses for embarking, pick the difficulty and the town name, and you're ready to start. There are some maps and modifiers that do require a certain difficulty to play on, but the difficulty climb is honestly pretty steady, so I had no problem building up from Pioneer to Viceroy as I was learning the systems and strategies. That is very good, because there is a lot to learn with all the intricacies and systems in the game that I will get into now. The first thing I will go into is how you win the game. You win the game when you get a certain number of reputation points. There is an exception, but I'll get to that later. You lose the game if everyone leaves / dies or the Queen's impatience gets too high. You gain reputation points by fulfilling orders, keeping your villagers happy, completing events found in the various glades, and the rare ones you can buy from a merchant. Queen's impatience is gained over time and is constantly ticking up. You can make it go down by gaining reputation points. As for villagers leaving, they do that when their mood is negative and they can die under certain circumstances, usually associated with bad stuff from storms or glade events. That is the basic overview of win and loss conditions. There are 5 races of villagers that may come to your village, although only 3 of them will appear per settlement. Humans are expert farmers and gatherers, lizards are hunters and ideal for any role involving fire, beavers are your best woodcutters in anything industry related, harpies work well in alchemy and with cloth, and finally foxes are quick and industrious in gathering resources and exploring glades very quickly. If If you utilize each of your villagers' strengths, not only will your settlement run more efficiently, but your villagers will also be in a better mood because they are working jobs they are well suited to. So make sure to place your villagers where they are best suited. Once you have selected everything from the preparation screen, it's time to begin and create your town. You'll start out with a few villagers, a main warehouse to store goods, and a hearth. This hearth is your main base. It's where villagers go to eat and take breaks in between jobs. You can burn offerings in it to fend off the worst of the storm's effects, and if it gets fully corrupted, you're in trouble. Something to keep an eye on, but not too pressing until you're in higher difficulties and later challenges. There are 3 seasons to proceed through: drizzle, clearance, and storm. The storm is the big dangerous one, but also when things get revitalized such as crops. Drizzle is the in-between season with not too much positive or negative, and clearance is when a lot of bonuses come into play and positive things along with collecting crops. A complete cycle of the seasons is a year, and once a year is up, you'll get a new group of villagers and a cornerstone that can give various bonuses, or you can decline and be given money instead. You will have options to choose for the cornerstones. You will also have options to choose when picking orders to complete. The orders come up after a certain amount of time, and there are a limited number of them, but you do have some flexibility in how you complete them. But do make sure to do so, because it is very helpful, because they give rewards beyond just reputation points. Use your seasons and time wisely, and you'll be well prepared to take on and take advantage of each point in the timeline. You start in a single clearing surrounded by forests and other glades you can cut your way to with your woodcutters. These glades come in one of 3 types: standard, dangerous, and forbidden. The dangerous and forbidden glades offer a lot of resources and opportunities, but also come with a specific hazard that you'll need to handle. It could be a monstrous creature you need to pacify or slay, an unstable resource that could explode in time, a haunted place seeking to corrupt the surroundings, etc. Whatever it is though will be on a timer before the bad stuff happens, and if you succeed in taking care of it before then, you'll be handsomely rewarded. There usually are multiple options on how to take care of the various glade events, but you may be restricted by what resources you have in how you can tackle those problems. Therefore, a big part of the balancing in each individual game is trying to figure out when it is a good time to cut through to the various glades to complete events and gather more resources based on what you already have. The forest has more than these events though to combat against the presence of your settlement, and that comes in the form of the hostility meter. Initially, the forest isn't particularly hostile to you and yours, but as you cut down more trees, discover more glades, and bring in more villagers, the forest becomes more and more hostile. At each new level of hostility, a new event is triggered for the storm period that offers new challenges during that season. There are ways to reduce hostility, from upgrading your hearth with decorations to reducing the amount of woodcutters, but some hostility is inevitable, and so it's a race to finish the game before things get really dangerous. Pro tip: if you need to make a little sacrifice to keep hostility below a level, it is 100% worth it. That extra woodcutter is not worth risking getting overwhelmed with low morale and disasters during a storm. Your villagers' morale is crucial to keep in mind, and that morale is controlled by meeting their needs. The basic needs of food and shelter, of course, will keep them generally okay, at least initially. Over time though, if you want them to withstand the harsh storm conditions and forest hostility, you'll need to fulfill some of their other needs: complex foods, upgraded housing, and various services, and each of these are race specific. All of these need raw materials collected from the surrounding area that are then processed in facilities to produce what your villagers want. Humans love religion, pies, and their own human-specific homes, while lizards love skewers, brawling, and their lizard homes. Some of these interests overlap, but never completely so. When you're picking what to produce and focus on, it is a good idea to take a look at what your villagers want. With their desires fulfilled, they can get positive morale that helps build up your reputation points. It's one of the most effective ways to win the game, although it is not usually something you can rely solely on to win, unless you're going for the achievement. On the reverse side, if you don't pay attention, you may risk losing villagers due to low morale, and unless you take mitigating actions, that can snowball into a loss. It's a balance that usually favors you, until it really doesn't. Each one of these systems builds on the others, and then you have the systems the game adds gradually as you keep playing and progressing. Trading with previous settlements and purchasing from merchants who come to your village, so helpful. powering buildings with rain power at the risk of letting the blight infest your village and needing to fight back against it with pyrotechnics. The great thing about Against the Storm is the intricacies of the system and thus how much different each game can be if you adjust part of that. You also have your own choices factoring into all of the differences that come up there, different orders that you get to choose, different ways of tackling the Glade events, different buildings that you unlock as you gain reputation points. You'll make very different decisions if you are in the Scarlet Orchard area with foxes, humans, and harpies versus the marshlands with beavers, lizards, and let's say harpies again. The games take between 45 minutes and an hour and a half to play, depending on how much you're using the speed up options at the top, so they're easy to fit in and play and then move on to the next settlement. Relatively quick, fun challenges in variety and strategy and circumstances kept me engaged for many hours, and I'm sure it can do the same for many others. The final gameplay part to touch on then is the strategy in between games. As this is a roguelite, there is progression you can build up between runs. You get resources from your settlements after completing them, and can use those resources to progress a tree with various bonuses, unlockable buildings, and more. You can also take the time to check in with your aunt and get some game hints and other little story details. It'll take time to get far in the tree, but each bonus makes you better equipped for bigger later challenges, including the seals that are the main story mechanic. These seal missions resemble a usual settlement, but the way you win those maps and seal the seal is by finding the seal, and then completing a set of 4 difficult challenges before the Queen's impatience gets too high, or another lose condition happens. There is so much to play with and discover, and while I've given quite a bit in this video, I'm going to leave off on the gameplay here so that you can discover other details, synergies, and intricacies for yourselves. I highly enjoyed that discovery for myself, and that's why I want to offer the opportunity for you to do the same if you wish to. Against the Storm's greatest strength when it comes to presentation is its atmosphere. Especially the visuals, the low lighting and twisted features of the world give Against the Storm a great feeling of alienation. You can never be too comfortable in this world with everything around you, which makes the relief of clearance season even stronger when the light breaks and you gain respite. There are several biomes to work with, and that helps keep things varied during your playthrough, not just from a gameplay perspective, but also a visual one. The little people inhabiting your village share a similar charm. They don't have much individual identity, but they don't need to, since you'll be saying goodbye to them after an hour or so anyway. I also really like the architecture and look of the game's buildings. It's not anything really special, but I feel like for the most part I can identify the purpose of each building at a glance and enjoy the look of how the village comes together with all of these buildings, paths, and decorations in place. The other aspect of the game that adds the most to the atmosphere is, unsurprisingly, the music. It just blends so well into the background and enhances the mood of each season. For instance, the storm music has a foreboding air that gives an oppressive feel, like the winds are howling and rain pattering. It all blends seamlessly and wraps you into the moment. It can be very easy to lose track of time as you're sucked into this world. The hardest and perhaps most important part of the presentation for Against the Storm is the UI and UX. The game is complicated with a lot of systems in place, so presenting the information to players in an understandable and intuitive system is crucial. For me, that balance was easily struck. I found all the information I was looking for, and sometimes more everywhere I checked. I even tried hitting random buttons to see what would happen and discovered fun features that way too that I may have missed in the mountain of information you're given to begin with. That is my experience, but I have plenty of gaming experience in general and with games of this type specifically, so I'm not necessarily the best test case for an average player. I know others who found the game very obtuse and difficult to parse, so my recommendation for those interested but possibly intimidated is to take things slowly. There are tutorial missions that you play initially that you can replay at any time, and I recommend taking your time to figure those out. This keeps going even to the more advanced mechanics, so the resources are there and hopefully can help people find what they need to succeed and have fun in this game. Against the Storm is an absolute pleasure to play personally because it fits a niche that I don't see represented often in other games. I love the initial phase of setting up a base and moving from surviving to thriving. Couple that with some legitimately tense moments of gameplay as you balance everything and you've got me hooked. If you are anything like me when it comes to games like this, you owe it to yourself to give Against the Storm a play. If it hits for you, like it hit for me, you could be looking at a new favorite. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the game, like the video to help spread the word to others, and subscribe if you have not already for more game goodness. Have a great day, and happy gaming.